All right, we're in session 5, folks.
Yay.
And the rules, as always, are that's working. Huh? Well, I tell you, I really have no clue what I'm doing here.
Yeah. That's okay. Pastor Mark did that, but he hid it better than you're hiding it. So that's the only difference.
Is it?
I think so.
I don't know about that. Now let me start over here.
He did sigh a lot though.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
or does.
Slideshow from the beginning. All right, I think I got it. So,
There you go.
Yay.
the rules are the same. Yeah, thanks. I needed some encouragement. The rules are the same. We're recording tonight. Got to be aware of the live microphone. And I don't see anybody joining us online, so probably scared them away last week.
No, I was gonna say.
So the brochures are available. Everyone has one if
Yeah.
they need one. And the trifold has the dates on it. So does your handout. So did everybody or anybody read the 2 chapters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Bill already read the whole book. He's done.
Yeah, me
I
too.
have to read it by chapter because I can't remember by the
Oh.
I'll get to the end of the
That's
book.
right.
Whatever.
She didn't say what I remembered.
Yeah.
I just knew
You
you
just
read
said you read it.
it. You just read
Just that you read it.
Right.
Remembering is optional.
Oh.
Okay, not studying the Bible text here, that's for sure. We'll try to apply the Bible's teachings. The Spirit is alive and well, and obviously I needed the Spirit tonight. Therefore, we're going to respectfully receive each other's words and opinions. We're going to get to some really interesting stuff here at the end of the class. We are free to disagree with Metaxas. I do both. I mean, I really like the book and the thought-provoking things, but he says some wild stuff on occasion, and it's okay to disagree with that. Okay, so we'll do that disagreement in a manner consistent with the love of Christ. I'm glad Pastor Mark wrote that because I wouldn't know exactly how to phrase that one. And we could, be as brief as possible. Now, I will say one thing about last week. I had like too much content on the slides, so I ended up doing all the talking. So let's not do that tonight. Let's let you do the talking.
But it was a good class.
And I will try. I'll try to get through all the content for sure, but I'll try not to be the only one speaking. Let's open in prayer, please. Father in heaven, remind us that we, as your church on earth, are in this world, but not of it. We hear the competing voices in daily debates over our earthly future. Always lead us back to your word and provide us comfort in the knowledge that our salvation is secure through the sacrifice of your Son, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And we're going to need that prayer when we get to chapter 11, because it's the end of times. And, you'll want to have some comfort about that. Okay, recapping chapter 8. If you weren't here, I'll go through these and make sure everyone's comfortable with it. The point of chapter 8 was to highlight the conflict that Jesus was constantly in with the Pharisees. and other church leaders, but mostly the Pharisees. And his point, Metaxas' point, was that idolatry can make a desirable quality out of a bad thing out of a desirable quality. And he used the examples of being respectable, being winsome, and being pure. Respectable is pretty obvious. Winsome means you're just a likable person. And purity, in the way Metaxas uses it, means morality. So he's saying, you know, those are three great qualities, but if you try to be them instead of letting the qualities come out through the way you're living, then you're probably messing up. And I think that's a really good point that he makes there. So if you're trying to achieve that through your own efforts, like the Pharisees did, you know, praying in public and doing certain dietary things and fasting and then bragging about it, you know, and Jesus said, I don't think so. You know, you need to live correctly, and then those qualities that you're seeking will come out naturally from, you know, the way you're living. And that's the preferred outcome.
Well, so I feel like just on doing like the good works, where people can become so focused on good works that they forget that it takes faith, that good works is a result of faith, not that good works is gonna save you.
Yeah, that's a very, very Lutheran viewpoint. And that's what we are, so that's good. Yeah, I think this is really a good point. And then he quotes at the beginning of the chapter, Luke 18. I've just pulled up that one verse at the end of the passage, because if you exalt yourself, you'll eventually be knocked down a few notches.
Right.
Okay, that's the whole point. If you humble yourself, then you will be exalted. So the two words of the week last week were winsome. Everyone loves that.
Yeah.
And the second word is exalted. I mean, who doesn't want to be exalted? Have you ever been exalted? I don't. I was thinking that's never happened to me, but it has. It's happened to you too. You know, people have looked at what you're doing or maybe how you're living and said, you know, that's a good person. That's being exalted. And you said these are important words. So that was chapter 8. Chapter 9 was launching back into the narrative about Bonhoeffer. And the chapter was called Burning His Boats. And these are the facts. I'll run through them real quickly. He intentionally returned to Germany in 1939 when things were really going downhill. And the war had not started for the Western European powers and not for the United States. But you couldn't say there wasn't a war if you were in Czechoslovakia or Poland, because in 1939, the Nazis were taking them to task. And then the other point is that he had a second chance to escape, so to speak, and went so far as to his friends booking a passage on a ship out of Germany and back to the United States, where he had been for many years. And he thought about it at the last minute, turned it down, and of course became a martyr. And the whole point is he had options of not being a martyr. So, I mean, you know, it's just like any solid martyr story, out of the Bible. I mean, St. Peter and the Romans, St. Peter could have picked up and hit the road and gotten out of town, but he didn't. He stayed, and the result was death. Same was true of Bonhoeffer. I'm not putting them on the same level. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact, he was a martyr. And Metaxas summarizes that by saying he was obedient to God's will as it was revealed to him. So Those are the points. Now, chapter 10, which is tonight's material, is titled Mere Religion versus Following God. And it recounts Bonhoeffer's attempt to follow God's plan for him that has nothing to do with being religious. In fact, as you'll see, it's just the opposite. And if anybody has a different take on this, please speak up. His saga continues. Nobody could have foreseen the path, because what he does, he goes to his brother-in-law, who's already in the German military intelligence, and he gets recruited into the military intelligence, the Abwehr. Probably pronouncing that pretty sloppy, but Abwehr is the military intelligence service of the German army. So from the get-go, he's become a double agent. Okay, he's actually wearing a German Nazi uniform now. He's not a pastor anymore. He's a military intelligence analyst working on the side of the Nazis, or so they thought. And so this is a big disconnect from what his actual intentions were. And the one thing that appealed to him, and he learned through his brother-in-law, was that the highest ranks in the Abwehr were embroiled in a plot to kill Hitler. And that appealed to Bonhoeffer. It appealed to him a lot. So he went along with that. And he said, I'm going to join this group because they're going to kill Hitler. And then that would be a good thing, or at least that was what Bonhoeffer is attributed to have been thinking. So he was officially supporting the Nazi war effort, but secretly harboring this false witness where, yeah, I'm a Nazi, I'm an intelligence guy, when in fact he was not that. He was seeking something entirely different. Now, I think Metaxas, this is where you need to speak up, folks. I think Metaxas does a pretty good job of saying this presented Bonhoeffer with a fourfold dilemma. And I don't know if these four are the exact ones, but it's what Metaxas presents. So his first comment was, is it permissible for a Christian to enter into a deep conspiracy? So I'm here at the Faith Lutheran Church. I see stuff going on, and I'm attending here. I'm filling in for Pastor Mark, whatever. And when I go home, I'm going to plot with some other people to have a certain outcome politically here in this city. But I'm not just going to plot about it. I'm going to plot in illegal ways, okay? Because my conviction is so strong that I have to go against certain forces politically that I'm going to go out and take some risks. But you all folks won't know about it, you see. You'll think, oh yeah, he's good, bad, or otherwise, we elected that guy president of the congregation. And little do you know that I'm off plotting something and lying, and my whole life is a lie at this point. So what do you think? What do you think about what Bonhoeffer did? Not me. What do you think about Bonhoeffer? Anybody, please.
Well, he had to be in big conflict about the whole plot against Hitler. Because, the Bible clearly states, thou shalt not kill as a 10th commandment. So, I'm sure he must have prayed hard about it.
And that is exactly the second point that Metaxas raises. As a Christian, can you sit down and talk about being part of a plot to kill somebody? And that's pretty careful wording there. mean, if you're at war and somebody's shooting at you, or you're shooting back, or you're trying to kill them before they kill you, okay, you know, I refer you to the Old Testament. You know, there's a lot of that going on, you know, so, so I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying that's a fact of war. But this is different. This is plotting to kill a person, even if it's Hitler. You're saying, hey, I want to be part of that. I want to assassinate somebody. So what do you think? I know, thanks for the transition, the segue, because that's exactly the second point.
To me, it's a matter of, even though it's kind of hypocritical, where you're actually a hypocrite, it's for the greater good. You have to measure whether or not it's for the greater good. You could equate the same thing. What about all these Dutch people that hid Jews and knowing that'd be wrong to hide Jews and the Jewish families from the Nazis?
Right.
But they did it anyway to protect the God's people and so forth. That was wrong, but they did it anyway because that
was against the law.
There's a greater purpose. There's a greater purpose behind it.
Yeah.
It was God's purpose.
You know, the thing that struck me on this point, and you can chime in if you wish, is this guy's a pastor. He's a theologian.
Mm-hmm.
He spent his whole life studying to get to where he's at. Now he's in the military intelligence planning to kill somebody.
He must have been a very tremendous soul when it comes to something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he only had three choices. He was going to either be drafted into the military,
Right.
sent to a concentration camp,
Yes.
or take this job in intelligence.
Right.
And he came back from the United States to stop Hitler,
Yeah, that was his intent.
basically.
Yeah.
So that's the only choice he had.
Right.
And he seemed like he exhausted all their means. Remember, he was in the States trying to let the president and the country know, hey, all the atrocities that the Nazis are doing to the Germans and the Jews and so forth, to try to get the United States involved in the war, but he failed at that.
And there was one attempt to actually reach Hitler and say, hey, you know, don't go down that path. And Hitler lied to him and said, oh, no, I wouldn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
Which he then proceeded to do to the fullest degree possible. So, yeah, I just picture, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just to say, history is full of assassinations, murders,
Oh, yeah.
done in the name of God, in the name of Christ. The whole Crusades go, so
Mhm.
it's a moment of dilemma, I'm thinking, in anyone's mind, is whether they are truly striking for the good of God, or if they are out of bounds and
Yeah.
directed more by the devil than by the Lord. In this case, I think he would have probably self-justified this very easily, that he was doing the greater good for the kingdom of God.
Yeah, I mean, well, clearly that's the conclusion he reached because he went through with it. I just have a little bit of, I have a little pause, and you can think of our current pastors, our past pastors, all the pastors I have known at various churches over and when I was in the military, all the chaplains I knew. I couldn't picture any of them doing this. I just couldn't picture them as individuals doing this, including the ones in the military. Chaplains, you know, they're wearing a uniform and, you know, it doesn't fit the mold. This is something different, yes, sir.
You didn't have a Hitler that you above you to consider with your chaplains and what have you. There wasn't somebody up there like Hitler. If there was, you might change your mind, or they might have changed their mind.
They're not on the same side, even though he's in the German army. He's clearly, in Bonhoeffer's mind, the enemy. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
to your analogy, I
Oh, yes.
believe that there has been more than one occasion when a man of the cloth wearing a chaplain's cross helped to dispose of the enemy. And did so probably with feeling that they had the righteousness of God behind them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I had,
Somebody that took out the commanding general with your own army because you didn't like the way he was running the army, that's a different story, but I mean,
Yeah.
this was.
well, just remember last week's anecdote that I shared with you on confirmation bias. And speaking to that young master sergeant who said, oh yeah, this book's great because it's an exact parallel to World War II because we have Hitler in the White House. Oh, okay, lady, that's interesting. So then, let's hope she doesn't think it's okay to go. I mean, other people have tried that already, so my goodness. Yeah, very, very interesting.
I was surprised that nobody even recognized him because he's pretty popular, and by him trying to join the military, somebody in the recruiting office probably should have recognized him.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked, to be honest with you, but
Well, his
I think the
brother-in-law,
brother-in-law had a lot to do
Yeah.
with it.
his brother-in-law was there and he was also anti-Hitler.
Yeah.
So you were joining a force that, let's just call it for the better good.
Yeah.
Whether that included assassination or,
Yeah,
maybe still help the German people rather than being locked in the cell.
on the next slide, I'm gonna address that very point about his brother-in-law and some of the other people around him. And it's not me divining this, it's coming out of the book. So then the third point that Metaxas raises is he was, his words, violating the spiritual injunction to avoid the appearance of evil by wearing the uniform and being in the military intelligence. And what he's quoting, Metaxas is quoting is 1 Thessalonians 5:22, which says just that. You need to avoid the appearance of evil. And so he's made a decision that is can be argued is in the instant non-biblical, just right back to the same thing, you know, what is the motivation behind it? And that kind of wraps up the fourth point, which is it's the greater good of getting rid of somebody, killing one person instead of letting millions get killed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the calculus of Bonhoeffer's decision, according to Metaxas.
Might use the same argument too for dropping the atomic bomb too,
Oh, yeah.
to save millions of lives.
Oh, it's sure, absolutely. Or the Germans firebombing Dresden, or the Americans firebombing Tokyo. I mean, you know, choose your poison. You know, do you go over and drop incendiary bombs by the thousands, knowing that you're gonna kill many, many civilians? Apparently the answer is yes. My father did it. He was a good guy. So Bonhoeffer's secret mission, I love this part. Again, this is the narrative. He's just plowing through what actually happened. And Tim, you brought this up last week. Alboer actually sent him on a mission. So this whole double agent thing, it wasn't just a figure of speech. He was actually going on a mission to Switzerland to tell folks outside of the country, outside of Germany, Switzerland was neutral. And he was gonna find the right people and tell them, hey, we're gonna kill Hitler in advance. And you would think, well, that's not very smart. You know, you might wanna keep that a secret. But the thinking behind that was the plotters thought, well, we trust Bonhoeffer. He's an honest guy. He can get into Switzerland. Most of us can't. And so we'll use him to go do that. And then people will receive that news. Select people will receive that news. And then when it happens, because they were predicting success, then they would be recognized from the outside as the people who did the deed. So that's why they did it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
This is conspiratorial stuff, you know? It's like, not only are you gonna kill somebody, but you're already planning how to take credit for it, you know? This is before the internet where you bomb something and, you know, ISIS is taking credit for blowing something up or whatever example you'd like to use. This is way before that when you had to do it like in person or, and that's why Bonhoeffer was sent off on this. And then the interesting footnote is that the plotters, including Bonhoeffer's brother and sister-in-law, do I have that mixed up? Yeah, whatever relations they were not Christians. They were not avowed Christians. Only Bonhoeffer was. So these people are acting out of pure self-interest or national interest. They don't have any theological founding behind it, and you have to assume Bonhoeffer did. So this guy's really out on an island at this point. So he gets to Switzerland, and they say, no, you can't come in because someone's done their homework and they know that he's not just Pastor Bonhoeffer. They figured out he's also whatever rank he was in the military intelligence. So the Swiss were doing their job and said, no, you can't come in unless you get someone of stature to personally vouch for you. And so he calls on Karl Barth. Anybody know who Karl Barth is? He's like a really famous theologian and existentialist philosopher who was deported from Germany for his anti-Nazi views very early on. Before Hitler was killing people, he took the people that were most vocal and just sent them away, deported them. Barth was one of those. And although Barth didn't appreciate being sent away from his home country, it saved his life because 3 or 4 years later, he just would have killed him, you know. So here's Barth in Switzerland doing this. And again, a nice footnote is that Barth was very involved in the reconciliation process after the war, both getting the German church back on its feet and getting the German people to recognize the evils of the Nazi leadership they had been under for 12 years, 14 years, by the time the war was over. So these are interesting points. Anything else about Bonhoeffer you guys want to talk about? Anything you saw in there that caught your attention? It's a great story. Anybody see the movie Bonhoeffer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the part you put into the movie because it's the cool part about being a spy and everything, you know. You don't spend a lot of time in a movie watching him pray or, you know, or go through the biblical consequences of his actions. Not that that's not in the movie, but I'm just saying this is the interesting part. Okay, so chapter 11, end of times. And this is my comment. So if you ever want to be irritated by this author, this would be the point. Now he's gone on for 3 or 4 chapters now, telling a nice story about Bonhoeffer, and it's all, you know, it's all good and everything. Now he interrupts it abruptly and says, oh, by the way, we're in end times.
Yeah.
And so what he's doing is he's taking us back to chapter 1. So if you can remember that far ago, the very first class that Mark taught on this, chapter 1.
Are we in the last days?
Are we in the last days? So he's come full circle after 10 chapters of various commentary and storytelling. And he's right back to his initial point. And he's wanting to know if you think that he's in that we are in times. And he's doing it on purpose. The very first sentence in that chapter, 11, the very first sentence, he says, "We seem to be living at the end of time." That is a dramatic statement. And my comment is indeed. So, what do you think? Where can he take this? How can he tell us we're in end times? I had to reread chapter 1, so that's a long time ago. But
I was struck more about at the end of time in Revelation perspective. But we seem to be living at the end of time with the cultural Christian nationalism.
right,
He's looking for a rallying point. And I think this is his decision was the rallying point is that Christians need to be aware that we are under attack,
right,
not only here, but worldwide, and the time is now,
right.
not next time, this time.
This,
As Bonhoeffer discovered when he said,
Yeah.
"I'm really sorry that I didn't do more early rather than late."
right,
That's the way I kind of took, maybe not the best of ways to present it, but that's the way I kind of.
no,
He's not saying we're at the end of times. There's a question, right? Are we at the end of
oh
times?
yeah,
And then he goes to try to give us some examples of
he does
in
indeed.
that direction.
And some of the examples are pretty strong. Yeah, I think that's true. You raised the point a week ago that, okay, it's all well and good to say that we need to do something, but what is that? What are we gonna do? And I think he tries to get to that in the final chapters. You can be the judge of that, but right now he wants you to buy into the fact that it is some version of the end of times. When I read this at first, I said, well, that doesn't seem theologically very sound.
Right.
So maybe he's talking about the end of times for this nation.
Yeah.
So maybe this nation won't exist the way it's supposed to exist in his viewpoint, or your viewpoint, or mine. Maybe that's what he's saying. And I had a whole bunch of different thoughts on this. I'd like you to share, but I'll start off by saying, when I was in high school, somebody shot the president and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then all the way through college, there were riots in the street and protests, and there was a big mess. And it just went on. And people of the previous generation who had been through World War II, like my parents, well, the Depression and World War II, they were going, hey, this is the end. It can't get any worse than this. Well, I don't know, that was 65 years ago. We're still here. So I don't know, what do you think, folks?
I think that, number one, it goes by the prophecies, how many prophecies have been fulfilled. I think one writer I remember reading that over 75, 90 prophecies have already been fulfilled. That could be a way of determining the end of times, as well as how this world has changed, where what seems to be right is wrong, and what is wrong seems to be right. How this whole world has turned completely 180 as far as what is justice and what is evil. Oh, everything is all misinterpreted now.
Yeah, and Metaxas, I'll show you in a couple of slides here that I pulled out some of Metaxas's points that say just that.
And Jesus warned us about that too. He said that's the mark of the end of times, along with earthquakes and storms and everything else.
Well, we all many of us sat through Revelations as taught by Pastor Mark. And you recall that he had a full session on all the variations of, what constitutes the end of times according to the book of Revelation. generation. So Metaxas doesn't go there. He just throws out some current things and says, if this ain't bad enough for you, what is? And all I'm saying is it's been this bad before. I mean, what about my parents and some of your parents? I mean, they thought the world was ending in World War II. You better believe they did. I mean, they went and fought to make sure it didn't happen. So, you know, the other thing is, if you look at the apostles and the writings, particularly, I guess, St. Paul and the epistles, you know, he's right in there saying, hey, you know, don't do anything rash like getting married because, you know, the world's going to end pretty shortly in the second coming. So when he says stuff like that, I'm not quoting him, but there's that thread in there.
But
And
do you think there's ever been a, such a moral corruption of this country as we are seeing it happen right now? I mean, we've lost our moral compass in this country. And where and how do we as Christians, believers, work with that?
yeah,
I mean, you see it at the voting polls, you see it everywhere you go.
yeah.
And it's that to me is frightening because I have no control over it.
Sure, I agree. I just pointed that out because every generation has some sort of tipping point. Y'all remember the revival of the 1830s? No.
No.
You remember reading about it?
No.
You ever hear of somebody named Stone or Campbell? Right, things were so bad back then, according to some people, that Stone and Campbell are two different people, but they had the same thought at the same time. And the churches they founded are still around in one shape or another. You can think about the Church of Christ if you wanted to go there, but they told tens of thousands of people that, you know, the world's going to end at a very specific time and we all need to go to New Hampshire and sit by this rock and wait for the second coming. I'm not, you can look it up, and people did it because things were so bad they were convinced that they couldn't get worse. If you think about 1830, what was happening? It was the Industrial Revolution. Everybody's world was being turned upside down. People were losing their jobs because they were being automated by machineries and factories. And all the cottage industries were being replaced by mechanization, industrialization. So it's the same argument today with artificial intelligence, you know. So I don't know the answer to the point. I'm just trying to discuss.
I understand.
Yeah. Or
it frightens me.
One of my favorites was after World War I, social behavior was so out of control in this country that we passed a constitutional amendment banning alcohol. I mean, it was such a big problem that we
Didn't work out, did it?
No, it didn't work out. It caused many more problems than it solved, but I'm saying, I'm just trying to make the point.
Yeah,
that,
no, I understand.
it's at some point in every thing,
Let's remember that the world will end, it will come like a thief in the night, and that's the guidance you get from the gospel. So you don't know, I don't know when it's gonna happen. It may be in an hour from now, or it may be 1,000 years from now.
great point.
Yeah.
See, we have plants in the audience who say what I'm about. So this is all coordinated ahead of time. What does your church say about it? Faith Lutheran Church. Go to our website and read this. I'll let you read it. Yeah, that's perfect segue. So your church, this place right here, not the big church, not, not God's church, Faith Lutheran Church at 10,000 Spain, on their website says, let's avoid speculative teachings about this. That's what it says. If you don't like it, you can contact Pastor Jerry and try to get it to change.
In fact, in the Revelation class, the pastor disavowed the whole rapture theory of
Right.
the book of Revelation, that is not biblically sound to believe in rapture.
But there's whole churches that believe nothing but that.
Starting with Campbell and Stone.
Exactly. I mean, and it hasn't stopped. People are still on that theme. So there's some interesting points. Back to the Metaxas text itself. Here's the observations, Tim, that Metaxas is making. First of all, he's tying in a very popular data point, which is there was no Jewish nation after the Romans got a hold of them and destroyed it, and just diasporas. They're all over the world. They're no place. They own nothing. They don't run anything. And then in 1948, they create the state of Israel. Now, you can make some really good arguments here against Metaxas. Well, before I get to that next bullet, you can make some arguments against him that it's not a Jewish state. They have all kinds of folks in there. Do you know how many political parties Israel has? It's like 40 or something. I don't know. You have to look it up. It's a bunch, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their Knesset, their parliament, has like 2 of these people from this party, 3 from here, and so they have all this fragment. They are hardly a homogeneous Jewish state. And has anybody been to Israel? Oh, great. What was your experience like?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Just to walk and see the places where things you read about in the Bible come to life for you.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's why most people go, I think.
Yeah.
What amazed me is when we had a tour guide where he says, when they first became a country, everything was pretty much barren because the Arabs, being nomads, they burned all the forests, the trees, and Israel planted all the trees. They imported various grape plants, and now they're one of the leading nations as far as wine producing and so forth. And they're also one of the leading nations as far as selling flowers. They imported everything and they grew it, and it's a very industrious and a very luxury state itself. It's a beautiful state. What I liked about it was at the rest stops, they had apple trees and pear trees, and the tour guide just grabbed the apple and said, "Here you go. It's for the traveler." And I'm like, wow, why don't we do that at rest stops and various roads and highways and stuff? But remember, this is such a beautiful and a very historic country.
When I was a kid, my father embarrassed my brother and my sister and I constantly because he was the guy who had the slideshow that they showed every year about the Holy Land. Yeah. And the reason he had those slides was he was stationed in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, flying planes all over. I got pictures taken from his aircraft of the pyramids. I got pictures of Baghdad. I got, so this is my father. And then he had all these 35 millimeter slides, and people would say, "Oh, Buzz," he was also called Buzz, "show us the Holy Land," and he would get his slides out and show them. When you're a kid, you go, "Come on, Dad," really.
It meant a lot to him.
And I value those memories a lot more in my older age here, but yeah, that's the way it was. Anyhow, he said something to me in the mid-50s that I stuck with me forever, and everything. I said, what do the people speak there? He said, well, they speak modern Hebrew to a great extent, but there's also a ton of Arabic of various sorts that's taught. And he said, but the main secondary language in Israel is Russian. I didn't know that
Russian Jews.
when I was a kid. This is eons ago. And, you know, there were so many, the population was so heavily drawn from Russian, Ukraine, Belarus, all the
Germany was the only country to persecute Jews.
oh yeah, the Russians
The
were
Russians did a good job. of
big
it
time.
themselves,
Yes. And so those are all interesting points. He raises that. And he talks about the possibility of I lost back to the woman with the wild hair.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. She won't leave us alone.
Yeah.
Try to get. I'm supposed to do the view here and then find the right slide.
Back to Metaxas text. Third last slide.
Yeah, no, he I was taught how to do this, does not remain that I remember how to do it.
Okay, that's.
There you go.
So here we are. So Metaxas says there is a plausibility of a one world government.
Yeah.
And he kind of leans on the Western European thing and the existence of the European Union and the erasing all the national borders and that sort of thing. I think that's Eurocentric view is, I mean, it kind of like leaves out like all of Asia and South America and Sub-Saharan Africa. And so I'm not sure it's that.
If you watch Star Trek, you know it's gonna happen.
That's the future.
That was one of his weakest arguments, I think.
Now, he also talks about a one world religion, but he's not talking about the kind of religion you and I think of. He's talking about some conformity to certain beliefs. So here are the points for discussion, if you choose to discuss it. Man, I am flubbing up. These fingers are not working for me. So he talks a lot about globalist elites, so people who want to run the world. And you hear about that from time to time. And he talks about religion being something other than a belief in one true God. You know, the whole idea that all religions point to the same place.
Yeah.
And you can get there if you're a Buddhist, no problem. Hindus, same thing. Islam. So I think he's got a valid concern there. You know, there are a lot of people in the United States who believe that every religion is just as valid as the next one. So he really hammers that quite a bit. Anybody want to comment on that? Or?
Well, he's describing pretty much what's in Revelation, where you're gonna have the Antichrist coming in, and first of all, he's gonna say, no, I'm not the Messiah, and then he's gonna put his house, his dwelling right on the Temple Mount, and he's gonna identify himself as the Christ. And then you're gonna have the unholy trinity, the beast, the Antichrist, and Satan. But the problem is that's after.
Okay, I can tell when there's 10 minutes left because that's when my voice starts failing. Means I'm talking too much. You guys need to save me here. Yeah, his main example on this is in the last bullet. He talks about the apostasy of mainline denominations, and he really zeroes in on issues involving LBGTQ. This is where he takes the argument. So if you look at the last 3 pages in this chapter, you'll see a lot about that. And I won't try to repeat it, I'll just say it's there for you to read. And he is, as Tim pointed out a week ago, he was raised as in the Greek Orthodox Church.
Right.
He's currently an Episcopalian. I did not know the answer to that. I had to go look it up in between weeks. Or at least he attends an Episcopal church, I'll put it that way. This is according to his own website. When he saw a gay pride banner in a Greek Orthodox church, he just flipped out. He said, how is that possible? And then he goes down the street. He's living in New York, so these things are all accessible to him, all in one place. And he finds a Roman Catholic church that has a similar display. And he says, you got to be kidding me. There's no way that these people would have even thought about that 10, 15 years ago. And now here it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like, says if you're worried about Christianity versus mere religion, if your mere religion accepts and adopts secular viewpoints like this, that's his whole point right there. And you would think, well, he must be homophobic or he hates these people or whatever. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is it's a sign of something.
Yeah.
It's a sign of something, and it's a really important sign.
Well, it goes back to the moral corruption of this country.
Mm-hmm. But, let's talk about that.
We can accept people that believe in that into the church as members.
Sure.
That doesn't mean we have to agree with their lifestyle at all. I mean, in fact, we should accept them into the church.
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
Maybe they could change their minds.
Yeah.
But, and I don't agree with it. As a matter of fact, I wish Faith Lutheran was a little bit more forthcoming in saying things like that we do not believe in that.
Yeah, I'll try to get to that on the next slide.
Okay.
But not to preempt your discussion, but I'm just saying I'll try to get to that. The code language that is used is open, affirming, and celebrating.
Yes.
So if you have an open church, that means anyone with any definition of LBGTQ plus whatever. Well, I mean, he's not up to date. There's a whole bunch more now. But you look at this and say, well, what's an affirming church? Well, that means you not only accept the individuals, but you accept who they are in terms of what they do.
Yeah, behavior.
So, I mean, you have to accept that. And then other churches go a step further and say, we're not only open and affirming, we are celebrating.
Yep.
So then they have celebrations of this, okay? And Metaxas says, if that, right, and if Metaxas says if that doesn't get you in the end times, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
So, yes, ma'am.
There's a movement called Reconciliation in Christ that is, I know it's in the Lutheran churches because it hit our former church, where they actually celebrate and they used the word celebrate, and they
Right.
expected their Sunday school teachers and everything to teach that totally against the Bible.
Well, you have ELCA
ELCA.
clergy, including bishops now, who are openly gay or lesbian or whatever, bisexual, whatever. And everybody's supposed to say, that's okay. That may be why you're sitting here in an LCMC church.
Right.
That's
Because
right.
if you go to an ELCA church, you probably rewind yourself to 3 or 4 chapters ago, and you might get caught up in the little cancel culture if you went and objected to that in some of these other churches. Remember the cancel culture
Oh, yeah.
argument?
Yeah.
So he's tying all this all together. Well, in this very church, and I won't speak for our retired pastor emeritus, Bruce Wilder, but he was challenged 20 years ago to conduct a same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
And if you were around, you may have heard about that. And he said, I don't think so. I'm not gonna do it, right? So let's talk about if you're an affirming church or a celebrating church, you're gonna say, well, of course you have to do that. If 2 people want to be in marriage, then yeah, you gotta do that. What does your church say about it? Again, back to the Faith Lutheran Church, because I don't want to speak for this church. I'll show you what's online when it regards sexuality and marriage. And in part, it goes on for quite a ways, actually. That's what we say in this church, this very place.
That's all well and good that it's online, but we don't hear that in the services. You know, it's nice to write it down. How many people have read it? Except for us right now.
I knew it was there, but I had to go looking for it to answer your question.
Basically, God doesn't make mistakes. Period.
Well, we read it before we came here.
Good.
That's why we came here.
That's how we came here.
I'm
We
glad.
watched the services online before we came here because the other was very upsetting. We were told by our president of our congregation that people who use scripture to support their opinion should, anyway.
They should use their heart.
Did you say president, not pastor?
President. Our pastor was fully supportive of going to reconciliation in Christ. We had an entire congregational meeting. 3 families stood up and said, this is not what the Bible says. And all 3 of us, our 3 families left.
Good for you.
But everybody else was for it.
Well, I went to church shopping a lot when I retired from Los Alamos because I moved from there down to here, and the choices were not. There were not many choices up there. It's a small town, so you just kind of. And they I don't know what they're doing now, but this was 25 years ago. And then I had various contract positions where I had to live in different places. And so I got to see a whole bunch of different churches, and they were all ELCA. And I went to one of them, Messiah Lutheran in Madison, Alabama. They would say this and more. As a church, as a unit, they would say, hey, they didn't buy into any of the secular viewpoints that Metaxas is warning about. They just didn't do it. And I asked him, and I asked the pastor, I said, how do you get away with it? And he said, we just ignore the bishops. So, I don't know if that's taking a stand or not.
You know,
I mean, I was comfortable in that church because they acted, or I was comfortable. But they weren't like doing a Bonhoeffer about it, they were just ignoring. So, yes, sir.
I told this story before in a different class. I was in San Francisco years ago in business on a Sunday morning. I got up to
Right.
hotel, asked concierge, where can I find a Lutheran church? It said 2 blocks down. This is in the heart of San Francisco. Great. I walked down there and it says it's Reconcile Sunday, Reconciliation Sunday.
As opposed to
Recognize
Reformation
that,
Sunday.
what it meant, but it didn't take me long to realize that the vast number of people worshiping in that church that day had homosexual relationships, which was recognized. The pastor was quick, there was a guest pastor preaching today that he was married. The line that stuck with me as I left, there was an elderly woman whose job it was to look for strangers and offer to have them come back. And I explained, no, I'm in town on business and I appreciate that. She said, well, you'll find that there are a lot of people in this church that are very confused about their relationships, but they're all feeling the same towards Jesus Christ as their Savior, and they're having trouble figuring it all out. And that line stuck with me. We have degrees of sin? No, we all are sinners. Do we all need to be reconciled because of that sin in Christ? Yes. Now, does that mean we should run up banners? No. But we've got to be sensitive to the reconciliation that comes from Jesus Christ, regardless of what sin it is that we are committing.
As opposed to the secular reconciliation, where you just accept anything because you have to.
And that's, I think, where Metaxas is really to the point of, as we've talked about, churches that allow same, where the pastor performs a safe-sex marriage, where banners of
Right.
the no, now you're celebrating a sin, not reconciling. But you don't kick them out. You know, so well, they're have to split up because they're sitting here, sinning in church. Yeah, well, so am I sitting here, sitting in church, because I'm a sinner, I was born in sin. We were all born in sin. We all need reconciliation.
Yeah, but when you tip the balance by saying that you are now going to affirm that and celebrate it, it's like, okay, that's
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say.
No, not you.
Oh, no,
I
right,
mean,
right.
the
I agree
church.
with that 100%. We don't,
Yeah,
not
you.
We don't celebrate adultery,
Yeah.
which is a sin, but certainly there are adulterers that sit in church pews every Sunday.
You
They
think-
probably are praying for reconciliation from
You
Jesus
think
Christ.
maybe,
They're trying to figure it out.
Sandy?
I remember Pastor saying, talking about that you love the sinner, you hate the sin.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a pretty common turn of phrase that's used for that. Yeah, well, yeah, we all need help, but except for these people, they're fine.
I have a
And
question.
Metaxas is really going off on that because he knows it'll touch a nerve.
Mhm.
Great.
I have a question. Has it ever been talked within the council or the parishioners, or not parishioners, pastors? What would we do if on a Sunday a young girl comes out of the bathroom and said there's a man in the bathroom and he's dressed as a woman? What, has that ever been brought up? Has it ever been discussed how it would be handled?
Yes, I can recall one time.
Okay.
About 6 years ago, we hired a consultant called Shepherd's Watch
Mhm.
to come and show us some security, safety scenarios. And that was one of their scenarios. So what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
And the answer came from our pastors at the time which did not include Mark, but it was Bruce and I think Carol was still there. I don't know, it was, yeah, it doesn't matter, but our
Right.
pastors,
Right.
whoever was present, they said, well, they would take it head on, okay? And so, in other words, they would confront the person and say, hey, we don't accept that behavior here.
And that worries me because at some point we are going to be affected by that.
Well, I think we already are.
No, but I mean physically in church.
You mean like here? Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
in the building, in the restroom.
yeah.
But you can put on the armor of God and stand your ground.
Yeah.
Again,
You can pretty much-
Right.
May God have mercy on you, but we're not gonna put up with this behavior in our church.
Oh,
You're
no.
welcome to go sit in the pew and listen to the word of God, but you're not welcome to use the girls' room as your dress, as man dress.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a tough thing to do. I know it's
Yes.
easy to pontificate like this. but
Yeah. Well, and that's a very good point, it's, confrontation is hard for most people. And then it's easier for some people. And, part of that is your personality and part of that is what you do for a living,
One more quick illustration.
We get,
The church I was heavily involved in my working years in Toledo, Ohio, had a K through 8 Christian day school.
Mhm.
The pastor and the principal of the school one day, a child of about the first grade, second grade age, came in with her father and her mother, both who were males. And they said, we'd like to talk about enrolling our daughter in your Christian day school. And the question to them was, are you identifying as the father and mother? Yes, we are. This is our child. We've adopted it. And so now they went through the interview and they left. Now the question that came up to us as elders in the church was, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to refuse the ability to teach that child based on the parents' situation, or are we going to welcome the child and do the best we can with the child and then try to manage the situation with both parents being male? It turned out that they didn't decide to enroll, but for a while it was crisis time. For fear that we were going to get hit by the secular world, and it would blow up in Toledo, Ohio, which in Toledo, pretty conservative area. Not like blowing up in San Francisco or whatever, but that Christ Lutheran Church or Trinity Lutheran Church, Toledo, Ohio, refuses to get child. Here's her pretty picture in the paper because they have same-sex parents.
well, I think the most likely, I'm gonna go back 2 or 3 comments ago and try to address both of those comments. The question was, what are we gonna do here in this church? And I hope we confront it, but we also have to understand that some of these challenges are not organic. They don't just come up because the person's there.
Right.
Sometimes it is a orchestrated test where someone is planted in the position to make you discriminate, according to social values.
That was our dilemma in the story.
I know,
Is this for real or is this a test?
Yeah, no, it can happen. It could happen here for sure. I have a lot of confidence in our pastors that they would stand up. And I don't know about your church leadership, the church council. I don't know what
They would defer to the pastor.
Oh, you got that guy up there on top, yeah.
Gotta push them out front. Here, you go handle that.
I spent my whole life looking for fights. That would be fine. I'm not worried about it. What was my college sport?
Football.
Football? Yeah.
Wrestling.
basketball, wrestling, yeah.
Chess.
I was in a chess club in high school.
Oh, there you go. And it was considered a sport, you could letter at chess.
I was a varsity boxer.
Oh, wow.
So I've been looking for fights since a very young age.
Okay, we'll send you into the ladies' room.
Yeah.
We needed that
Come and find me.
reassurance.
I'll do it. I'll make a record.
Okay.
Here's the coming classes.
You have to go in the men's room, get the lady out of there.
We figured.
Yeah, why don't we keep saying
Yeah, I
it's
know.
a guy going in the ladies' room, you know, it could be the other way around.
That's what's in the news now.
So we can go in peace. I wanna go back to one other thing. Just so you know where I'm coming from. Not that that's on your mind, but. Okay, I was 49 years, 10 months, 9 days.
She's beautiful.
Her gender was female, and mine was male.
Yeah,
Imagine.
there's no question about it.
Now you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
That's it.
We learned
that's mine too. God does not make mistakes.
I really appreciate you folks being here and participating. I really do. Thanks for all your comments. Now I have to, anybody know how to save this thing? Please help me. Oh, wait a minute.
Just turn the computer, just turn it.
All I gotta do is read Mark's directions.
They need to be bullet points, not
Not
paragraphs.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Yeah, it is.
It'll say.
I think I need to do the best I can here.
Roger, over and out.